Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Great to see everyone joining us. This makes me so excited. Love sharing my morning with y'all. Well, welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and get ourselves started. Welcome to How We Recover, virtual event presented by Eat, Breathe, Thrive and the Eating Disorder Foundation. My name is Lydia Rhino. I am the program director at the Eating Disorder Foundation. We are a nonprofit based out of Denver, Colorado, that provides free educational support, advocacy resources for individuals as well as family and friends throughout the United States and internationally now as well. So really excited for our partnership that we have with Eat, Breathe, Thrive to be able to bring more recovery voices and stories to the community and offer that longstanding belief of hope and confidence and trust that we can encourage, inspire, promote recovery to make sure that everyone knows that it's available for all of us. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chelsea to introduce, and then we'll get our panelists here also introduced so that y'all know who you're chatting with this morning. Awesome. Thanks, Chelsea.
Thanks, Lydia. Really happy to be back and happy to see some familiar faces and names, and just want to welcome you. If it's your first How We Recover event, we're really happy to have you here. So yes, I'm the executive director at Eat, Breathe, Thrive, which is a international nonprofit charitable organization working to help people recover from eating disorders. And we're so happy to be here with Lydia and Ailey and Esther. And so I will just say, so all of us are people in recovery in at some stage of the journey. We're all going to be asking questions and answering questions more specifically about our theme today. We also want to invite you to share your questions in the chat and your reflections and anything coming up. So we love how conversational these are. Just really briefly, I'll say, let's go around to kind of everybody and just say maybe your name and how long you've been in recovery, whatever that means, and where you are in the world. I'm Chelsea. I am in London, England at this moment, and I've been recovering, in recovery, kind of any of them. Pick your, pick those terms. Oh my gosh, like 19 years, I think, about around 19 years. I would have to recount it again. I've been sticking with 19 years for a while. Ailey, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Ailey. So I'm based in Birmingham in the UK. I would say that I'm probably in my third year of a solid recovery, and I'm really excited to have been invited here today to see you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Esther. I am located in Moorpark, California, and I would say that I'm in my fifth year of recovery. So I'm very happy to be here.
I'll just give my little also check in about it. I'm in my about 10th year of recovery. So we have a nice span of different places throughout our recovery journeys, which I think brings a lot of valuable insight to hearing just how things change and ebb and flow throughout our experiences. Yeah, if you want to put in the chat to everyone where you're joining us from, would love to hear where our folks that are with us are zooming in from. Oh, I'm also, I guess I didn't even say where I'm from. I'm typically located in Denver, but I'm currently in Arizona right now.
Amazing. Thanks. Okay, so our first question I wanted to pose, so our theme today is how do I trust myself again? And I think the first question I want to open with is how did having an eating disorder impact your trust in yourself or how you relate to yourself? And sit with that for a moment and what it was called. It is a huge question. It's been the whole time on it.
I can go first. I was having a conversation with a friend that kind of related to this yesterday. And how did having an eating disorder affect my trust in myself? It affected everything. my trust in myself was completely corroded. I think because it started from a place of wanting to like it started young for myself. I was 15 years old in a situation where I didn't really have community. My family wasn't doing great. And I think that stemmed from a place of not being able to trust my environments, not having any safe place to go. So I think it was very adaptive where I wanted to control my life, my situation. And the only things I could control were my studies and my food intake and my body. I can't really actually like I learned like I can't really control my body. It's an illusion. But what I realized was I've always been trying to find safety somewhere. And because I never felt safe in things that, as a child, you hope will provide you with safety and comfort and belonging. I just realized my whole life I've been looking for something to feel safe in. But because my eating disorder stemmed from wanting to control, then the rigidity and the rules and the punishments and the guilt and the shame that came with it, uh, really, I was the first person that I couldn't trust. I was the first person to turn on myself because I wasn't fitting some rules that I created for myself from such a young age that I never corrected, that I never learned that they like what's the actual science behind this stuff? We don't know. I just learned from a magazine. Mine was Shape magazine, and it told me some food rules and behavior rules that I latched onto until I entered treatment when I was 29. And I think it's been slowly uh, learning where I learned not to trust myself, and then developing day by day how to feel safe in myself again so I can trust myself. So uh, that's kind of like a long history, but also like kind of a gist of like, I didn't trust myself at all in my eating disorder. Zero. I thought I could.
Yeah, I mean, I following from what Esther said, I think what made me not trust myself, um, I mean, I was a total opposite. I had that, safety. The family was great. There was nothing like that would have triggered the extent of what I went through for 15 years. And so I think what I couldn't trust my reactions. So I didn't know what my decisions that I would make in that moment, what the outcome would be. It was just kind of it was a snapped impulse, and then, that would snowball into whatever it would snowball into in that particular moment of time. And I think now, whilst I'm actually in recovery, I always have that fear of where I was and that something might send me back there. So I think, there's that kind of the lack of trust in actually what my brain can do to trick me into that place again. And it's that constant daily reinforcing of, you know, what I've learned over the years in order to not go back to that place. But, Esther said it's like we think we can trust it. I thought I could trust what was in my head. I thought I was like, right, that's the right thing to do. It's the only thing that control it. It's the lesser of two evils, or whatever excuse I could come up with. And every time it just ended in disaster. So it's kind of, I think that the trusting myself came from realizing I couldn't trust my eating disorder.
You want me to go, Lydia? I can go. Okay. Um, wow, that's so quotable, Ailey, what you just said. Trusting myself came from realizing I couldn't trust my eating disorder. I'm gonna hold on to that gem. Let's just completely derail there. I really love this because it's really good. Um, yeah, okay. How did my eating I mean, so much comes up around this. I think first is like a chicken or the egg. Like, did I not trust myself to begin with? And the eating disorder like filled that hole and gave me like a false semblance of control and like, do you know what I mean? Like I couldn't trust myself. And so here's order and structure. And if I follow these rules, you know, to talk about what Esther said, then I'll be okay and I'll be safe. And it was, you know, this. So I think there was probably an element of not trusting myself to begin with. But I think what I remember most keenly is when I got into treatment and early in recovery, you know, I created this false, I now know, illusory sense of stability, structure, control. Like I do this and then this happens, you know, and that gave me a sense of, I don't know, just survival, really, like emotional survival, psychological, like okayness. You know, that was how I operated in the world. And then I go through treatment and everything's kind of ripped out from under me. And especially as I got into recovery, it was like I can't trust my body anymore because I'd really damaged my body, you know, like my hunger and fullness signals weren't showing up normally. I didn't know when I was hungry. I didn't know when I was full. I didn't know when to eat and how much to eat. And I really like all of the organizing kind of principles had been in my eating disorder. It was all gone. And so I think there was an element of mistrust to begin with that probably led to the eating disorder, but then the experience of recovery was like a whole new different type of mistrust, because even if I wanted to recover, I didn't, you know, to Ailey's point, fully trust my own brain and fully trust my own body. And it just took years. It took years to really build that back and to go, you know, when my body says I'm hungry, I trust I am. You know, when my body says I'm full, I trust that I am. And that's come, you know, there's really no other word for that but healing, you know, psychologically and physically. Yes, it certainly, it was everything for us.
I know it's my turn to answer, and the dog just started barking. So I'll do my best while you'll also hear a little symphony of guard dogs. Um, I my experience was so like I felt so trusting of myself prior to my eating disorder. I do feel like I had some semblance of a relationship of trust with my body, with my brain, with everything. And I think that's why my eating disorder felt so jarring to me when I developed it, because it felt like I went from having like a base of like comfort and safety with myself to then saying, well, I'm no longer safe unless I do these things. And that provided an even stronger feeling of trust and safety and like I was doing something right. So it's really interesting because I went from fully being like, oh, I feel like okay, to then being thrown into this system that felt like I was like, oh, I am not okay unless I'm doing these things. And that, like, it almost felt like my eating disorder was like always a sense of distrust of just like, we have to do these things. And if we're not, like, we're not fine. Like, there's, yeah. So it's really interesting. I think that my eating disorder was just like the distrust that like swept into my life and made me not trust my friends, my family members, like anyone that told me things, I was like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know what I'm doing. I can keep myself well. Like, I don't need support. You know, like I'm fine." Was like the level of just distrust that like seeped in. Um, yeah, it's really interesting because I would have it would have made more sense if I was like, "Oh yeah, like I didn't trust myself before." But I think that my eating disorder actually like took away a lot of the trust that I had worked on and like my sense of self before I developed my eating disorder. I love this question because I was thinking about that too with like chicken and the egg, Chelsea. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, like did was I already not trusting myself before, and this was like a fake way? And I was like, no, I think I was like most assured of myself prior to the eating disorder voice coming in. So mm, love that. Love that reflection. I don't know if you have another question percolating now, Chelsea, or anyone, if anyone else has a question.
I mean, I've got loads of questions on this if you don't have one coming up. Uh, I mean, my next question would be, so our topic is well, that's really good. I mean, there's one in the chat, but we'll go to that one next maybe. We're talking about how do I trust myself again? I wonder kind of how you understand the relationship between trusting yourself and trusting others, and that, is there's does that make sense? Like how do those things, like, can you trust others if you don't trust yourself? Does not trusting yourself impact how you trust others? Does trusting others help you trust in yourself more? There's various ways to explore that.
I'll jump in if that's okay. I mean, the way that a lot of my early treatments went through was that I would say to I was like a reassurance seeker, and I would, be asking my mum, is it okay to do this? Like, say if I was following my meal plan or whatever, and it's like, is this okay? Is this going to, do me harm? And I had to continuously be told that what I was doing, was needing to do was important, that it was safe, that it was the right thing to do, that and all those things, because I just could not. It's almost like I couldn't do something because I had no ability in my own brain, or no space to, I don't know what the word is, but to, like, just sort of naturally do it. I was like, I needed someone to be like, this is okay. Like, your body needs this. This fuel is going to be good for you. And I had to do that every time for so long before I could eat. If my mum was going out for some time, she had to write me like a little letter and be like, okay, this is what dinner's going to be. And, we would name things. So say if I had to have, the sort of meal replacement shakes, there's various brands of them, but she, depending on the flavor, we'd be like, oh, it's the magical mocha flavor. And we try and make it fun. And, even at 22 years old, and it sounds so childish doing something like that, but it's like, that was the only way that it was like, okay, this is okay, this is safe, this is going to be good. So my ability to not trust myself meant I had to rely more on others than ever before. But that would only apply to family. I could not trust the healthcare professionals whatsoever. And that was just due to so many years of failing treatment, or treatment failures. I wasn't failing treatment, they were failing me. But, it's kind of that treatment failure, and that failure to show up for me as I was. So I couldn't trust them. But mum was, she saved my life in the end. So, that's kind of how I got through a lot.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I feel so my experience was different because I couldn't trust my family. So knowing that there are people out there whose family are their support system, it makes me feel a lot of just relief. Like, oh, okay, it's not always like this, you know? Um, I think having to trust people, I don't know if this is the question, Chelsea, but I'm just gonna go with it. But I think the trusting people had to come later in my life because I did not trust so intensely the outside world around me that I had created this very, very isolated world. It was like walls of like a castle that traps you, and you're like, oh, there's the door, but all I see are these walls just towering over me. And that's kind of what it felt like to um, have my ED build over the years. It's like initially it made me feel so good, as you said, Lydia. I got rewards from it. There were tangible rewards, but over time, I did not see that what was keeping me from the connection that I needed, the safety that I needed, the help that I needed was my eating disorder and these walls that kept stacking up throughout my life. And so I was fully convinced that I could not trust anybody else. My eating disorder knows what's best for me because they don't know like that I can't eat these foods, that I have my safe foods, that the caloric intake that I arbitrarily set for myself is now my golden standard for life, and I will be extremely unsafe and unwell if I go past this. So you can't tell me otherwise because you don't know better than I do, than my eating disorder does. Of course, I couldn't differentiate between my eating disorder then and myself, so it was just my brain kind of operating. Um, I think I was lucky in the sense that after 15 years of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, um, I was kind of like, I never had any hope for myself for a future. I never saw myself having a chance at life past 30. So when I reached 29 and my body kind of started, like the pain was too intense that I actually had to be admitted to, no, I had to be sent to a doctor's office. And then I entered myself into treatment. My sister gave me an ultimatum. She was like, "You've been dealing with this yourself for your whole life. You have tried everything. If you don't try professional help, then I will no longer be someone that you can come to for like solace or help." So she made me call treatment centers, and I remember I called the treatment center, and they're like, "You're calling around for yourself? You're so brave." And I didn't know what that meant because in my mind I thought you were entering a house, like a luxurious house where you get to like relax and like be away from the world. I was like, "Yeah, like this is fine." So when I was asked initially to trust what they were teaching me, my dietitian, therapist, doctor, in the treatment center, I held on for dear life. I fought. I did not trust them. And basically, they were asking me to let go of 15 years of these rules that I had created for myself in order to create a semblance of safety. Um, and I think when I started to get some psychoeducation, some actual nutrition education, your body doesn't work like this. Your body needs foods in order to food and nutrition to stop binge eating. It needs nourishment so that the other parts of your brain, symptoms of malnutrition can be insomnia, anxiety, depression. What? I thought there was something wrong with me, like uniquely special about me that I was so broken. And so I was like, I've tried this for 15 years. So I'm going to try meal compliance. I'm going to try, even though I fought my way through all of it and wanted to cut corners and wanted to skip meals and whatnot, I was too, I had made a conscious decision to be there and I knew what life was beforehand. So I was like, I'm going to keep staying meal compliant. And the trust came over time. I was had to go through a huge grief process, and trusting my health professionals has been the best thing that healthcare professionals was the best thing I personally did, just because I was able to get outside of what I thought my body was resigned to, destined for, and trusting outside of myself over time, not immediately, but over lengths of time, has allowed me to be here in ways that, like, even the presence of mind, even the joy that I feel and the passion that I feel, I, for someone who thought she wasn't going to live past 30, you can imagine that those things did not feel possible. Joy and like, oh, I'm not experiencing like crippling anxiety right now. Like that's beautiful. And it came from trusting others.
Oh, I resonate so much with that, Esther. Yeah, literally everything yeah, I agree so much. I think it's so interesting to hear everyone's different experiences though, because we all do have, slightly different experiences. I think similarly, I had, they call it fiercely independent woman syndrome, but like shrouded in an eating disorder, which is really not helpful at all. And I was convinced, that I had figured out the best way for me, like this is the way that I'm going to do it. But, the word that was coming to mind as you were speaking, Ailey, is, so I can also resonate with things you were saying is, even though like on the outside and externally in my head, I was like, I'm going to do it my way, which is, obviously leading me toward death. Like that's how it felt. That was what I was aware of. Underneath it was like a deep sense of insecurity, and uncertainty, and like a sense of who would I be if I didn't have this eating disorder? How would I survive if I wasn't like this? And I think the word that when you were saying, I don't even know what it is, that like when you're needing reassurance, I think what starts to develop over time with a trust in yourself is a sense of agency, um, like a sense that this is my body, this is, everything that I experience within it, in my mind, physically, in sensations, that is only my inner experience. No one else is in here with me. And it's the one precious vessel that each of us have, individually. You're the only one in there that carries you through life. And that was an emerging sense that kind of came through me in recovery. But like Esther, it actually came through completely giving up control and all of it, and giving into healthcare professionals that I was pretty sure were like sadistic, evil humans. Really, honestly, like I remember when I first got to the hospital, I said that it would be traumatic. I believed it. I believed it. I wasn't just trying to like manipulate things. It would be traumatic to work with a doctor on staff because he was a man, and like all kinds of other reasons. So it's incredible how many mental gymnastics your brain does to like hold on to your normal, whatever that is, whatever, like almost homeostasis, just to keep things the same because it's so scary to change. And um, I mean, for me, I was involuntarily treated, so I didn't really have another choice. There came a point where I realized that the only way to get out was to do what they said. And so I didn't consciously choose to trust them at all. I just thought I will fake it to get out of here. And the weird thing is that faking it actually slowly developed trust over time, which is funny. Um, and I have those doctors and nurses to thank for my life. But I will say I was completely resistant to it. I thought they were evil. I thought I should have my freedom, my liberty, and the only reason that I'm alive is because I was there. But first, I'm trying. I guess the last thing I'd say is, why did trust emerge in that kind of? I think it's just putting one foot in front of the other every single day, and letting not letting past expectations dictate how you experience everything that happens, whether that's an interaction with a nutritionist or a dietitian, an interaction with a family member. And sometimes I think that trust came through that is my expectations of who they were and what they were doing being wrong. And yeah, really positive relationships developing.
Mm.
I really like this flow of me going last, so I get to hear all of your guys' perspective, and then I get to percolate on all the tidbits that y'all are bringing. Yeah, I think with my eating disorder feeling so untrustworthy, I feel like I was like desperate to trust someone else, and I was desperate to feel like like someone else tell me what to do because clearly what I'm doing is not right. So if there are doctors that say they know what to do, I please, like, I will hand over the reins. The first time I went to treatment, I felt like I was like, okay, just tell me what to do, I'll do it. Like, I felt like very much just like I need to go through the steps. I just need to do this, and then I'll be able to leave, and I'll be good. And that led to a relapse within a year, and then I was readmitting myself back to try again. And that time I think was when I really was like, okay, I need to like really listen and learn and understand what's happening so that this doesn't become something that becomes more familiar and that becomes my new normal is trusting the eating disorder over the professionals. But I do think that, yeah, the lack of trust that my eating disorder caused me to be like, okay, I do think I need an external source to help reroute this so that I can work on trusting myself again and figuring out what an adult sense of trust with themselves looks like. Because at that point, I was like still like a late adolescent. So it was like a really weird time to be like, okay, I'm like trying to form some independence while also like becoming really like desperate to be taken care of, to be told what to do. Like that was really like comforting at that time. Um, yeah, that's such an interesting thing to consider and to think about. Mm. I'm wondering, I saw a question that came up in the chat that I'm wondering, Chelsea, if
Yeah,
you saw
go for
here.
it. I saw there's a couple in there, but yeah, one of them has gotten like several seconds. So we should go for that
Oh,
one, I think.
go to that one. Go to that one. I don't know which one.
This is the question: will we always have to be diligent, or will someday healthy behaviors and thoughts just become second nature? So what's been your experience with that, each of you?
I can hop in there. I mean, I think compared to the other three of you, I'm still a relative baby into recovery. Um, and I think one thing that I said to my mum was that I didn't believe that I would ever sort of be free of anorexia or be free of that part of me. I think having it developed so young, sort of 12 years old, you know, kind of, and such an extensive and horrific journey that we went through, I didn't believe that it would just go. So for us, we've always worked on living well with anorexia, sort of living well, knowing that those thoughts will be there. They will pop in from time to time. They pop in when I don't want them. They'll pop in those difficult times where, you know, I think I've gained weight and I kind of constantly analyze myself to be like, is it? Is it not? Is it? Is it not? And so for me, acknowledging that and accepting that and not expecting a miraculous light bulb moment meant that I've kind of embraced, especially the past year, of being able to sort of have those thoughts there and just ignore them, kind of not delve into the rabbit hole, not fall down, you know, Alice in Wonderland and think of them constantly. It's just, oh, right, that's there again. All right then, you know, but kind of absolutely not going down that route. I kind of want to take a jump and kind of connect it with something else that someone has said about sort of having secondary conditions. So I think somebody mentioned about that they, oh my God, this chat's so long, like food sensitivities and food reactions. Linda mentioned that. And for me, you know, I'm happy to share last year I had to have emergency ileostomy surgery. So I live with a permanent stoma bag. And there are so many things that you can't eat with a stoma bag. And there are so many things that you might be able to eat or that I might be able to eat, but that they cause reactions. You know, I've kind of gone through 3 rounds of sort of acute kidney injury because of dehydration. And I'm having to now learn how my body reacts and responds to so many foods that before just I wasn't thinking that through. So I'm always aware but then sort of what I'm doing, I'm just kind of, I have to just try, see what the response is and be like, okay, well, that's off the list. Or, you know, I might need to go through different medications and there's all these different things, but actually it's great because I've not let the anorexia jump in there. That's not, we were all expecting a relapse, and it's totally not, and it's brilliant. So but it still, again, it took those, I was just like, I just want someone to tell me what to do. I want someone to tell me everything I can and can't do. And I want them to tell me, you know, prescribe how much liquid I need to have. And mum was like, well, it doesn't work like that with this. You have to try because everybody's body is different. And slowly over the months, I've learned to trust. I've learned to trust Rosie. So that's my stoma bag. She's got a name. She's great. So I've learned to trust her and joke about the things that happen. And I think that, you know, yeah, it's kind of actually going to restaurants are really hard because I'm like, oh, I can't have this and I can't have that. But now I know that that's not coming from a place of an eating disorder. That's coming from a place of, you know, a health condition. And I'm able to separate those things. And it takes time, it takes acceptance, and yeah, accepting that there is no magical answer. And that's the hardest thing that I've had to accept, is that there is not one way to do this.
I keep thinking your mom is an angel, and and I'm so sorry that you went through that, but I'm so happy to hear that you are still a recovery boss through all of that. So that's so inspiring and amazing. Um, I think a part of I forgot your actual question again, Chelsea, because I'm so enthralled by the
It
shit.
was it was not my question. It was a question from our audience. Will we always have to be
Oh,
diligent, or will someday healthy behaviors just be second nature?
I think the diligence will transform over time as long as there's recovery oriented behavior that slowly can replace the 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 old behaviors. And it's grueling. It's a grueling process because the brain, something I learned is that the brain is there solely to protect us and our bodies. And these things we learned were adaptive. They helped us, they made us feel good, they made us feel in control. So the brain, if it's learned that it's done something and it's worked, it doesn't really care about whether it's killing you anymore, because it's like, oh, we know this thing and it brings us alleged safety and comfort. Um, I was able to, through psychoeducation, through getting some science behind how my body works, I was able to slowly start separating myself from my brain. I learned that the mind is a different entity than the brain itself. The brain is a physical structure that sends off chemicals and electric signals and stuff. But the I was able to see when my brain was like, we need to be diligent about this. But I'm like, well, I'm meal compliant right now. So I have to like go to my meal and eat it. I learned about things like the Minnesotan starvation study. And I learned that, healthy men during the war were put into an experiment for 6 months, and they were on 1,600 calories for just that amount of months. And most of them developed eating disorder symptoms or eating disorders themselves. And it took so long for them to recover. Some recovered quickly, some took years, and some never recovered. It took the I realized that there's a science behind why my eating disorder is still in my body. I learned that I was starkly opposed to eating fats because of the era that I grew up in. And in diet group, I learned, or nutrition group, I learned that the body only absorbs, I believe it was vitamin K and A, through also combining fats with the meal. And I was like, my body operates in ways that I had no idea. And suddenly I was like, maybe if I start aligning myself with things that are conducive to recovery, and I learned that my body, because it's been eating disorder for 15 years, it's going to have to learn over time that it's going to regularly get its needs met. And then it's going to start operating like in ways that I've seen other people's body operates, but not mine. Like mine just wants to binge. Mine just wants to restrict. Mine just wants to have stomach pain. It doesn't want to sleep. So I think the diligence started transforming into diligence towards these things that I was learning, and these things that they were resonating with me. I think that, there can be a lot of shame that comes from, well, this is working for someone else, but it's not resonating and working for me. But it's like, I only picked up these things when I was ready, like to absorb them. And it was kind of like a crack that, like a little light came through, and it just sparked some, like, oh, maybe there's something there. But I kept going back to same patterns and old patterns through recovery. It was not a perfect process, and it was messy and ugly. But the larger picture, the why, okay, I'm turning my trust and attention constantly all day, every day towards something else. And something that like an image that I had in my mind was, if I look forward into my future, if I trust recovery, it looks like a dark abyss. It's scary. I don't know what's lying ahead. It could fail me entirely. But what I knew was when I look back, it looks like the pits of hell. I know what's there. I for sure have been through these things and they've repeated over and over again. And so I'm going to keep turning myself towards the unknown. And it's like a trust fall every single time. Every time I have to trust my recovery, I'm falling again. Oh no. But then recovery slowly over time showed me that there is a softer and safer place to land eventually. And then the diligence transformed to um, my my meals are my full-time job. I always attribute my success to, yes, my therapists, but also I stayed meal compliant all these years. I never once let a day go by where I was like, meal plan be gone, because I knew my recovery relies on my body to be nourished and well. And if I don't have the body foundation first, then my mind will not be able to be sustained. That mind recovery is not going to be sustained. So I'm still very diligent about my meals. I am 100% meal compliant every single day, and it's not perfect, but I have adjusted it to be so, to fit in my life. And I think all of us, the last thing I'll say is I don't think all of us expected to be here ever in our eating disorders, but it seems like we're diligent about our passion for eating disorder recovery, for helping people, for our care in this process. And that's proof, evidence that the eating disorder diligence can transform to other things that we never expected, better things. And I see every single one of us in this room are diligent about different things now, and the anxiety still comes. I'm a person. I still struggle immensely with my mental health, but we learn to cope with it in different ways.
Yeah, thanks, Esther. And I just love this question. I think it's a really good question, and I think it's on everybody's minds because the experience of being in recovery is just hard work, isn't it? It's like, is it always going to be this hard? Is really, I think, what's part of what's underneath that. Um, I'm somewhat of an outlier here. It makes me feel really old how long I've been in recovery. So I can speak to just a different perspective, but I think it's really important before I say anything here that everyone has a different experience of this, every single person. And they have a different experience at different times, and different people have different experiences. So, there is no right way or wrong way. What I will say is I was told when I was in treatment to prepare that this is probably always going to be on your back, like a little kind of thing you got to look for over your shoulder. And I think I think that came from a really good place because I was really, really sick, and I'd been really, really sick for a really long time. And so I think, like Ailey said, it was about kind of setting expectations, figuring out how to like live well with all of it. And that was a really positive thing. Um, I When I look back, I can identify three kind of separate stages that happened, although they weren't like clean, cut, but I can see them in retrospect really clearly. The first one was the like fake it till you make it, extremely difficult. Diligence doesn't even cut, like it was so much more than diligence. It was like, hard work, battling through each meal, all of that. It was really, really difficult. That was stage one of being in recovery. There was another stage that came after. And I think at that stage, I had to like, I didn't even have the will really there. Like, it was like having to fight to find the will to do it. I think the next stage that came, I was kind of like, I wanted recovery. I wanted to get better, which was new. That was different. I didn't have that in the first stage. And that made the fight and the struggle a lot easier. That because I had to be diligent, I had to be like on it, I had to be on meal plans, etc. But it was I was carrying less because there was that desire there to carry me through those battles at every single meal, every single day, all of that. And that stage lasted for quite a long time. And there was like a lot of ups and downs through it. There were periods of relapse where like I wanted to get better, but I wasn't following my meal plan, all of those things. But it was a daily battle. Like those thoughts were there and I was in my head all the time. I couldn't look at a plate of food and not see all the numbers instantly in my head. And even though I knew what they were, I had to make a different choice, which was very hard. Like, and I know you all probably know what I'm talking about, right? It's like most people just look at a plate of food and then they just see food, but I look at a plate of food, it has all this meaning that I then have to like go shh. And then, that, and when I look at my body, all of that stuff, that was there for years. And I didn't expect it to change, but it did. And I can honestly tell you, I do not have that anymore. It's not a struggle anymore. It hasn't been a struggle for many years. It's amazing. It is the greatest liberation I have ever experienced because it was misery and it lived in me, so I couldn't get away from it. It was in my head, it was really, really difficult. Um, I I don't know that that happens for everyone, but I always say it because you might be one of those people who believe like I did that it never is going to get better. And I think it's important to always hold that something may change. I will say it did not change, and it's different for everyone. For me, until I was at um, I was at a restored nutritional body weight place and like past what I thought was restored. I was like, and I don't know if there was something physiologically, but it certainly, and I've talked to Ailey about this before, it did feel like I crossed a line and something hormonally shifted that helped a lot and really lessened things. But that I always mention that because it didn't happen until I was well into a nutritional restoration place, further than I wanted to be. We'll just put it that way. And everybody is different. So yeah, I offer that.
I'll provide my perspective and then we can pop to, I see a raised hand, so I'm wondering if we have another question. I feel like for sure my diligence was so active for so many years following treatment. I wish I would have been like writing everything down like throughout this whole process to be able to go back and to be able to say like, yes, at this date, this is when I was able to start like lessening my control over the recovery process. But it really took a long time of being really consistent with going to therapy, with doing my meal plans, with talking to my dietitian, setting realistic expectations, reworking it when different things have happened. I've had a lot of loss over the past couple of years, plus recently, that's like when I experience grief, that brings up a lot for my eating disorder. So I know around times that I have really difficult emotions coming up that reinforces diligence that I have to bring back in and pull from my reserve of to be mindful of the times when my eating disorder voice will want to creep in to say like, hey, things are really scary and we can help make that not as scary. But similar to Chelsea, where Chelsea's at in her own recovery, I feel like my diligence has loosened up a lot within the past couple of years. And that I am in a place now where a lot of, I would say, I don't want to speak in like black and white thinking of like 100%, but a majority of my thoughts are like very naturally fluid, that they're in coming from a well place. And I think I really developed a system of asking myself. I did a lot of values work. That's what my recovery process was really like based in. So I trained myself to really engage with the question of like, is this behavior going to move me towards my values that really like drive me in my life force, or is this behavior moving me away from that? And I think every time I made that recovery choice to complete my meal, to be honest in therapy, to be honest with my dietitian, to be honest with my supports, that diligence did me best in the long term then, because I was willing to do all of that work. And each time that I did it, no matter how much I didn't want to do it, when I was able to override that, the like hatred that I had for having to do the things, then I was able to get to the point where I was able to say, like, okay, well, now my brain has rewired to a degree. I do think there's part of it that's like that voice may always want to creep in. So I never want to say that I'm like expecting to never have thoughts. Um, but I think based on where I'm at in my experience of putting a lot of diligence in and being like almost like rigid in my recovery for a while, um, that has allowed my brain now to have more flexibility. So going from like rigid eating disorder, rigid recovery has allowed now for like more like flexibility and fluidity. But I do know that's different for everyone. I do know that that's not like everyone's like end goal or what they're hoping for in their recovery. Um, and for me, I really wanted to get back to a place of like freedom and like full trust with myself and not allowing a lot of space for diet culture messages, for believing that if I change the way that I look, that somehow I would be miraculously happier, or feel more accepted or more worthy or more respected, any of those things that come up in my mind. Um, yeah, I think that's how that feels right.
Mm. Lydia, I'm just seeing we've got so many really good questions here. So I wonder about if we move to like popcorn style, where like we ask a question and not everyone answers, but just whoever feels called to answers it. That way we can try to get through as many as possible. Yeah, does that sound good? Katie, we see you have a raised hand. Do you have a question? If so, you can take yourself off mute, or Melanie might be able to help us take you off mute. No. Okay, it might not be a question. I put an accidental hand raise. Okay, let's go through this. I mean, this is a really powerful. There's so many good ones here, but I'm going to go the order I see them. Is it true healing if your weight is restored before your mind catches up and heals? Can they happen at the same time?
I mean, I think that really it's the mind that needs that healing. I think obviously, the weight coming up is great, but living with a brain that is hellbent on destroying you, it doesn't matter what your weight is. And so to me, it's healing comes when the mind is in its best place. I mean that's just me, but I just don't think, yeah. And so that's why I hate them people discharging it, weight restoration, whatever that is in different people's eyes. But actually, if the mind hasn't caught up yet, it's just relapse and relapse and relapse.
Yeah, I'll just really quickly because I feel very called on this one. I think that weight restoration is such a it's a distraction because there's so much, like we say weight restoration. If I've even said it, I struggle for words. I want to say restoration, but we're talking with physiological restoration, nutritional restoration. There's so much going on beneath the surface of weight. Your gastrointestinal system, your vagus nerve, learning how to interact with your autonomic nervous system again. There is so much happening physiologically, and then your mind, as Esther and Ailey were saying, you're building new neural pathways, all of that. So for some people the physiological comes soon, earlier. For others, the mind gets there and the physiological has to catch up, and usually it's not one or the other, and there's a real, so that's my sense of it. But I think healing is a process, not an end goal. That's what I was going to say about that.
I do see that we have a hand raised now for question. Emma, if you want to take yourself off mute and go ahead and ask.
Hi, I'm from Ireland, so it's really interesting listening to you guys. Um, I'm at the very start of recovery and a meal plan, and I suppose just the question is how far to know how to push, how, you know what I mean, in terms of challenging yourself. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
Can I answer that one? Because I am, this is my passion. I challenged myself the entire recovery process. I didn't stop challenging myself because my eating disorder would put an end goal. I'm only going to do this for 2 months. I'm willing to do this for 3 months. Okay, you're telling me that I'm gonna be an outpatient now. I'm gonna be doing this just for the next 6 months, and then I'll go back to some semblance of control. And I was lucky. I consider myself lucky in that I had the privilege of being able to enter treatment because I saw someone in the chat say, "Well, what if we don't have these resources?" Which I worked on the ANED helpline. I'm a support group leader and I'm a mentor, and I hear this all the time. And I always say, start with the free resources because that will kind of lead you to the next step and next step. And at an EDF have great support groups that are for free. There's no reason not to be going to those things. It's uncomfortable and it's something. It's that diligence that we can have. And but in terms of being able to be in treatment and challenge myself to stay meal compliant, it's only over time that I had this track record of, let's say, more time that I was meal compliant than not. And then when I was not meal compliant, seeing that my body got dysregulated much more quickly. And so I think I still challenge myself. I do it every day and I don't regret it at all now. But my eating disorder has fought me every single day. And yet my healthy mind, my recovery mind just happened to be a little bit more like I don't know, diligent, I guess, or
Yeah.
strong so that I could push through the
I,
days that I want to give up my meal plan.
it's a very strange feeling, and I don't know if you've ever felt this, but basically starting off the meal plan and I'm following it. And now that
Mhm.
I'm giving myself regular, consistent food, I'm nearly getting afraid of feeling hungry because I'm like, I need more food. You know, it's so strange.
So
I'm
And
normal though. So
that is
normal.
very as we start reintroducing regular food, there's something called hypermetabolism, and that is that what it's called, where our body starts increasing its metabolism, and so it's quite normal in treatment to have to increase the amount of food that you're eating,
mm,
which is scary because you
mm,
think this will be forever, but
yeah,
that's once that stabilizes, the body will stop metabolizing as quickly as before, and
Yeah.
that's a hard one to get through.
And
yeah.
your brain is shifting. I'm just noting we've got 3 minutes left. Emma, I'm like, your question is so rich. I
Sorry,
really
yeah.
want to no, 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 it's really good. And I know there will be like I just know that is entirely normal. And the fact that you're even here just brings me so much joy. And you're so welcome here. And I hope you come back and you keep at it every
Thank
day.
you.
Yeah. I want to give us one final question that kind of actually might be good to close on, like to segue from Emma's question, which came up really early in the chat, which and maybe just a quick 1 or 2 sentence one for our panelists. Like what's a simple, practical thing that we can do to trust in ourselves more, especially in the fear, especially in the uncertainty, especially in the insecurity and the change?
I think the most helpful thing, if I can will it for everyone, is to be able to remind ourselves that we're not our eating disorders and to create some space in that voice of saying, like, I am my own person before I am my eating disorder. And to start to create that instead of saying, like, my eating disorder voice is all I can hear or it's all that I am, creating that space for you existing outside of it. It's helpful.
I agree with you, Lydia. I think finding who Ailey is and was and still doing that now actually proved to me that there was life, that there was recovery, that there was hope. And I look back now and think that I'm so grateful that I took that step every single day to try, because my life has just changed so much. Like I have a partner, I live alone, I'm going to college, I do work, and it's like all of these things I never thought possible. I was fully convinced that anorexia would kill me, and that was the end of story. And I believed that for 15 years. But finding who I was, and that I'm more than an illness, just that was really the key, and reminding every day who I am.
Esther, quick one, and I'll close this out.
I think that going back to the neural pathways, it takes a while for those mud tracks to form as the truck is driving past. So just like that, if there's something that you can write down somewhere, something that someone's told you, something you heard today, and every time your mind wants to go there, pull it out. Don't rely on your brain. You can't trust it right now. So rely on something else. Pull something out, or just anything that will remind you in that moment to shift your thinking can be very powerful throughout the whole recovery journey.
Yeah, so good. I have two. One is surround yourself with other people in recovery, in various stages of recovery. So often in treatment, we are surrounded by people that are active and struggling, which can be very helpful. But you surround yourself with people you can talk to about this, you can process, and who also remind you that it's possible. And EDF is a great place to do that. We've got groups, so come back to these. And my second one, it's going to sound like an advertisement, but it's not. Practice yoga or some type of contemplative practice. I don't care what it is. Learn to watch your own mind, get to know your own mind. It's that separation from thought. It's being able to self-observe through a process of immense change, and to be intentional with yourself and intentional with how you live your life. So yeah, and yes, we do offer free yoga support groups, so you can come, every single month. But really, it doesn't have to be yoga. It can be meditation. It can be some other form of contemplative practice. Whirling dervishes, there's loads of them out there. But whirling dervishes sounds really fun, by the way. It's an old sushi practice. But anyway, Lydia, would you like to close this out before I go off on contemplative practice passion?
Sure thing. Thank you everyone for joining us today in this conversation. I am so grateful to be able to share this space and to share this with the community, and just to let everyone know that there is hope and that we see you and we hear you. And we're so glad that you showed up today for yourselves and for one another. That's my favorite way to end groups, is always to say that, like, you showed up for yourself and also in service of the greater recovery community. So just for y'all showing up today, that is a diligent step in saying that you would like to see your life outside of the eating disorder. So thank you to Chelsea I feel like I'm going to say your name wrong. Do you want to say it for me?
Haley without an H.
Yeah, it's Ailey.
Beautiful. So wonderful to meet you and spend the hour with you. Esther, thank you so much for your wisdom. I appreciate you all, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Melanie.
Our superhero.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.